Welcome to Annapolis Mosaics. Our program spotlights people in our community who are involved in activities designed to promote good human relations. I am Michael Keller, the chair of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission and your host. The commission is a city board that seeks to promote equal opportunity and to eliminate discrimination. My guest today is Debbie Guzik, who is president of 'Cause We Care.
Hi.
Debbie, welcome to Annapolis Mosaics.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, let's start by talking about the mission of 'Cause We Care. What is it?
So 'Cause We Care is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting families who have lost a child with funeral costs.
All right. Could you tell us a little bit about the history of your organization and how and when it got started?
Sure. So this is Nathan. Nathan is my sister's grandson, my nephew Travis and his wife Shannon's son. Nathan passed away in 2004. And then this is Nathan's cousin, Michael. And we lost Michael in 2009. He is my grandson and my daughter Jessica's son. When both boys passed away, our family was devastated, obviously, and paying for the funeral was a big obstacle for us. Funerals are expensive. We just didn't know where to start. Like most people, we didn't have life insurance on either boy. So we were just astounded by the generosity of friends, family, and strangers who came forward to help us. Had it not been for that, we would not have had a funeral for either of these boys. And so this is our effort to pay it forward, to thank the people that helped us, to let them know that they've created, in my sister's words, a ripple effect to help others.
So talk a little bit about how the organization actually got established. I mean, you've got certainly something very personal.
Well, my sister and I had talked for years about...
What got you started on it?
Initially, we talked about doing a crab feast type thing and raising money for the Center for Infant and Child Loss, which is part of the University of Maryland Baltimore Foundation. They assist families who've lost a child with things like counseling and support groups and things of that nature. But our first question to them was, can you help us pay for the funeral? They didn't have those funds, and they didn't have anywhere to direct us for that. So we initially were going to have a crab feast to help to donate money to this organization. And we talked about it for a few years, and we just kept putting it off. And then last year, we contacted our cousins, Stacy and Carrie, and we all got together, and it started out that, we're just going to have one fundraiser. And then we talked about it more and more, and 'Cause We Care came about, and we decided we were going to raise money for our own organization to help other families. A portion of our proceeds each year will go to the Center for Infant and Child Loss, but primarily we will be giving money to funeral homes to pay for funerals.
And you know, young families are often unprepared for the tragedy of losing a child. As you correctly said, most people think of insurance and life insurance. You don't think about insuring a child, because
you don't want to think about that.
Well, you don't, and also no one's dependent on a child, and that's what people usually think about life insurance. Companies used to promote life insurance, but they've gotten away from doing that because they've been subject to criticism. You say, well, why are you asking someone who's a child is, no one's going to be dependent on a child. But at the same time, if you have a rare circumstance like this, you have a circumstance such as you've experienced here, it can be absolutely devastating to it. And you know, from your experience, you know, how do families generally cope with this, these circumstances? How do they find out about you? How do they learn
We have word of mouth right now. We have contacted a few local funeral homes and said, if a family comes in, contact us.
Okay,
We've gotten
good.
really good positive response from that.
Okay.
I work for University of Maryland. I'm a labor and delivery nurse, so I have some contact with some of that community. And actually, the first family that we assisted was referred to me by a social worker at the University of Maryland. Right now, we're not really helping families who have had a pregnancy loss, and that's not to negate in any way the pain that they're going through. We just don't have the funds for that right now. But on the other hand, if a social worker or a hospital calls us and says, we have a family that really needs you, we probably would not turn them away.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any, from your own experience, I know this has been very painful, but do you have any stories about individuals that, because we care, have helped, that have especially touched you, Debbie? I know this is tough. But you know, I think our viewers would be interested in learning about people whose lives your organization has touched, people from whom you've made a difference in terms of being there when the family experienced a devastating loss.
Well, the first family that we helped, we never wanted to get that phone call. Yeah. But we got that phone call. Yeah. And it was someone who was experiencing a pregnancy loss. Okay. She was alone. Okay. She didn't have family supports. She was young, and from what I understand, she didn't have a lot of financial assets of her own. Yeah. So we were contacted by the social worker at University of Maryland, and she said, look, I've done everything I can. I have finally found a funeral home that's willing to help her at a reduced cost. Yeah. But she still can't do it. So we were able to pay for that child's entire, she had the baby cremated, so we were able to pay for that. And yeah, it's just nice knowing that you help someone. It's not an easy subject. People don't want to think about it. We were even concerned about how we would be received when we were asking people to donate money to this type of organization, because people just, no one wants to think about losing a baby. Yeah. But it's important.
But what kind of response did you get when you've asked?
Tremendous response.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our first fundraiser was something small. It was about a $300 dinner package that we raffled off tickets for. Yeah. And they sold so quickly that we had to buy more tickets. Oh. So that paid for our initial incorporation fees. Yeah. And then we put up a GoFundMe account, and we said, look, we need help paying for our IRS tax application. Mm-hmm. And it was paid for within days, primarily by a coworker who sent me the check for the entire fee. Oh. So that helped. And then we had our first big fundraiser was a bull roast that we held last summer, and the response to that was phenomenal. I was so worried because we had to put up money for the down payment on the venue, and I kept saying, we're never going to get people to come. We're going to lose money on this. And we ended up making, with the help of others, over $5,000 on that event. So, and we've continued with other fundraisers, and we'll probably have a yearly summer event of that nature.
And so that's really the source of the funds that you raise, is basically through these fundraisers, and you've had a very positive, enthusiastic response to it. People recognize the need that you have. 'Cause We Care seeks to raise awareness about SIDS and does he pronounce it SUDI?
Sudden unexplained.
Yeah. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about what these two conditions are? How are they different? What do we know about them, and why they're so incredibly devastating to families?
From my understanding, they're both pretty similar, although the terminology has changed in years. It used to be called SIDS, and now most often they're calling it SUDI.
Okay, so it's the same thing. It's just a different terminology.
Correct.
So, in in looking at it, I couldn't see much of a difference, but I thought I would ask you in terms of why.
I think that most often they use the terminology SUDI now, and it's just because they can't find any cause for the death. It's an infant, you know, and usually it's the parent that finds the child. It's just devastating.
Yeah.
You know, I've read so many stories, and you know, through my nephew and my grandson, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare, and I just can't imagine. Well, I can't imagine the way all these families feel. And so when it happens, you're numb. You just don't know where to start. And so with Michael, it was kind of like everyone else took over. They came in and they fed us, and they took care of us, and they helped to pay for the funeral. And it continued for months. I mean, after Michael was buried, we got a message from someone who said to go to the company that makes the tombstones. Yeah. They said, go in and get it, it's completely paid for. And so we went there, and the only stipulation was that the owner couldn't tell us who paid for it. So we went in and we picked out the tombstone for Michael, and we still don't know who did that. So, you know, it's just, you just feel so taken care of and so loved.
Yeah. And that's what CUS tries to do.
Yes.
For other people. And that sort of gave you the incentive to form this organization because of the kindness that was shown to you. There was an effort that led you to create this organization.
And we want the people
others.
who helped us to know that it didn't stop there. You know, it's because of them that we're moving on and helping other people.
Yeah. Do they have any idea what causes SUDI?
No. Both boys had. They were completely healthy, no illnesses. They had autopsies on both boys, and nothing showed up on either of them.
So there's nothing. It's a mystery. It's a scientific mystery. Then
Correct.
they have no reason to understand why it happens.
Right.
It's just a chance event that the reasons are totally unknown to science, which makes it all the more devastating.
And it's pretty rare for it to happen twice in one family also.
I would expect it would be extremely rare.
It is very rare. People assured us, no, it's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
But it did, and
but you've used your grief though to help others though in the situation.
Okay.
We're going to take a break now, and when we return, we're going to talk a little bit more about the work of CUS We Care, and looking ahead to what you might want to do in the future. Okay, we're talking today with Debbie Guzik from the organization CUS We Care, which provides outreach assistance to families which have experienced a devastating loss of a young child. CUS We Care also supports the Center for Infant and Child Loss at the University of Maryland. And you briefly alluded to them. And you work at the University of Maryland, as I think you stated. Could you give our viewers some detail about what the Center for Infant and Child Loss is? What do they do? What?
So I'll speak from my experience because I don't want to. I don't want to stay their mission if I'm
Okay,
not
no.
completely sure.
Yeah, but no, I think, go ahead.
After Michael passed away, they contacted us almost immediately. I believe that hospitals contact them when a family has had a loss.
Okay.
They contacted us, and I probably drove the woman crazy because she was just there for me. You know, when I wanted someone to talk to, when I wanted to say, where do I go next, I called them. And so, as I said earlier, financially, they couldn't really help us, but they're just they're an emotional support, at least for me they were. They do research for SIDS and other child loss.
Okay.
And then they directed us to counseling organizations. I believe that they hooked us up with a camp that my granddaughter was able to go to because as a sibling, she needed supports that the family may not have been able to give to her at the time. And so they have a lot of community contacts. They also support the Back to Sleep program for infant sleep safety. And they do a lot of community networking, a lot of fundraising. They work with a lot of families in their community fundraising efforts. And yeah, they were really there for us. And so we also want to make sure that we give back to them.
And is this like a separate entity of University of Maryland, or?
It's part of the University of Maryland Baltimore Foundation.
Okay.
So I think it's more associated with the university than with the hospital.
Okay.
They also do a yearly walk, usually at Quiet Waters Park, for families that have had a loss.
Yeah. What's the Back to Sleep program?
It's to promote safe sleeping habits for infants.
Yeah.
They want babies sleeping on their back in a crib alone, without the blankets and the toys and the pillows, to hopefully decrease the risk of SIDS or SUDI.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how is Cause We Care staffed, and does it make use of volunteers? Or is it all volunteer?
My family and friends are probably so tired of us calling them to help, but they always show up. So primarily this came to be through the efforts of my sister Tina,
okay,
and my cousin Stacy, and my cousin Carrie. We're the core group. And then we also brought in a board of advisors.
Okay.
So we have 5 other people, Bonnie, Sherry. Oh, I'm totally losing.
That's okay. That's okay. That's all right.
We have
you got
a larger
5.
board. Yes.
You got a larger board. Okay. All right. I'm sure no one who you didn't mention is going to feel badly about it.
So we have that core group that does the planning and the execution of our activities. Right. And then we also have, as I said, family members and other people who come in to help us out with all the fine-tuning.
Right. Well, you know, what aspect of the organization's work gives you the greatest sense of personal fulfillment? And what aspect of the work really resonates with you the most? I mean, you obviously have contact with lots of families.
I guess seeing the community effort and just everybody coming together to support this cause. You know, at our bull roast, we had 2 bands that came and donated all of their time and their work. And I was primarily responsible for gathering donations to be raffled off at the last bull roast. And when I just emailed company after company after company and said, can you give me something to donate? Can you give me something to raffle? And the community organizations throughout Maryland that were willing to, yeah, here, take it. I know someone who had a loss. Here, take it. Use this. You know, it's touched everyone in some way. I think everyone knows someone who's had a loss such as this. Yeah. And so just seeing the outpouring and people want to give and people want to help. Yeah.
Well, you know, something like this, it's circumstances like this where you really find out how caring people can be. And from your description of 'Cause We Care, it strikes me that people have rallied behind you and your organization repeatedly, and that you've had no difficulty in terms of getting volunteer support, donations, and fundraising help when there's been a circumstance arise. About how many interventions, and I don't refer to it in that way, interventions. What I mean by interventions is contacts with families who have experienced this devastating loss. How many of these do you experience, say, each year? How often do you get a call like this?
I don't want to give a number, but it's very few right now, which I'm happy about. As far as I'm concerned, the money can sit in the bank forever and collect dust, because I don't want to have to use this money.
But it's there if it's needed.
It is.
It's good that it's there, that you have it.
And I know that it will be needed.
That's right. That was the other thing I was going to say. It's likely to be used.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you see as the greatest education need that the public would have about this issue? People hear about it. Are there stereotypes which people have when you talk with people about it? If you had to tell, again, you're communicating with the public here. You've got a pretty wide audience for Annapolis Mosaics. What do people need to know that you don't think they necessarily know about the impact that SIDS and SUDI have, or about the condition itself, from your experience in dealing with individuals?
I guess one thing that I would want to put out there is not to speculate.
Okay.
When you hear about someone who's had a loss, especially if they're young parents or if they're single parents, I think that a lot of people tend to say, well, what was that person doing wrong?
Yeah.
Or they come up with their own stories in their head.
Yeah. The families themselves.
The families, the public that doesn't know them well.
Right.
And I think it's important just to remember that this family's hurting. They need support. They don't need people to wonder what was going on that caused this to happen. Because there is no cause that we can determine.
Right. And that's important. You brought that out. That's important.
Right.
What do you see as the greatest challenges that your organization has going forward? What are the things that you, looking down the road at the future of the organization, what's your greatest challenges that you face?
There are a few. Probably financially, it's to
Okay.
keep it going.
All right.
We don't want to make people tired of giving to us. Emotionally, it's a challenge because you are constant, not that you ever forget, but you're constantly reminded of what happened, and you're constantly, when you hear of a family who's had a loss, you think back to when it happened to your family. So I would hope that none of us become burned out. I don't think that will happen, because I think that we all have really good intentions, and we know that it's important. But and I guess that's probably the two biggest things: financial and the emotional impact.
Do you find that most people, having heard about the circumstances that families face, are empathetic or sympathetic with their circumstances? Do they spend a lot of time questioning what may have happened? What's the general? I mean, when you reach out to individuals for fundraising purposes, what do you generally find the reaction to be?
Completely supportive.
Okay.
Yeah, and even if they're not able to give themselves, they still say, I can't afford to donate any, but I've had people say, what can I do to help at your next fundraiser? Or I know that I'm there for you, and we totally support and we appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah. This is obviously a national issue. I mean, it's a national problem. This happens across the country. Are there any national organizations that you're aware of that deal with this? Does 'Cause We Care, are you tied to any national organization or work with any organizations? Do you partner with other groups in the community?
Not at this time.
Okay.
That's not to say that it will never happen.
Okay.
I do know that there is an organization that I believe is located in Pennsylvania that does similar work.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I don't know the name of that.
That's all right.
We're not partnered with the Center for Infant and Child Loss,
Right.
but we do feel a strong affinity toward them, and we really do want to include them in any of our work. And I have heard of a few people on a smaller scale that are doing something similar in this area. I don't know if they're doing it as a one-time thing or if they're looking to start an organization also. Not that I've heard.
What would you have to say to members of the public about this issue? What's the single most important, if you take one or two really important lessons that you would take away from your experience that you would want to share with our audience, what would it be, Debbie?
I think the biggest lesson in this for me is that Nathan was 4 months old, Michael was 3 months old. So they were here 7 months the total. And when, for instance, when we had our bull roast, and I looked out at all of the people there, and I thought, in 7 months, these boys have touched so many lives. It's just unbelievable the effect that you can have by one little act. And so their short amount of time in this world, they had that impact. So that's the biggest thing for me, that you can make such a difference, even if it's not to 'Cause We Care, even if you're just handing $1 to the man on the corner. Little acts like that really carry forward, and like my sister says, it has a ripple effect.
Yeah. That's, Debbie, I'm sure that there are going to be some of our viewers, many of our viewers perhaps, who would want to get more information about 'Cause We Care. How can they get in touch with you? How can they, if someone wishes to donate, if someone wishes to volunteer, if people just want to have had an experience similar to the one that you've had, they want to get in contact with you, how can they reach you?
Well, we have a Facebook page. It's 'Cause We Care. It's C-U-Z, We Care. Go on and like us. Just spread the word that we're out there. Even if you don't want to contribute, just let people know that we do exist and that we're out there for the community. We have a web page. It's causewecare.net. We have a GoFundMe page that we can accept donations through. That's go through GoFundMe and then just do a search for 'Cause We Care that shows up on there. And if anyone does want to contact us for support or for help with a funeral, or just to say, we're here, they can contact us through our Facebook page. That's probably the easiest way. We're all constantly connected to that, so one of us will get back to you. And I just also want to put out there that we are not only helping people who have lost through SIDS or SUDI, even though that was our situation. We are looking to help anyone who has lost a child through any circumstances.
Yeah. Could you also just repeat that Facebook page?
It's 'Cause We Care. It's CUZWECARE.
Thank you for viewing our program today, and please join us again on Annapolis Mosaics. If you would like to have more information about the Annapolis Human Relations Commission, jot down the information on your screen. You can reach us at 410-263-7998 or by email at hrcommission@annapolis.gov. Or check out our page at the City of Annapolis website. Go to www.annapolis.gov, click on City Government, then Boards and Commissions, and scroll down to the Human Relations Commission page. And always remember the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "We have flown the air like birds and swum the seas like fishes, but have yet to learn the simple act of walking the earth as brothers and sisters.